Before we dive in, ask yourself this. Do you want to understand the real forces shaping the world before they hit the headlines? If the answer is yes, then this is the channel you need. Every week, we uncover the geopolitical moves, economic shocks and hidden agendas that others won't tell you about. So hit that like button to support independent analysis and subscribe now so you're never left in the dark when the next global crisis hits. Let's get into it. Taiwan's role. In the global economy, Taiwan is not just another island. It's the heart of the world's tech economy. The island produces the vast majority of the planet's advanced semiconductors, thanks largely to TSMC, a company so crucial that even the slightest disruption could send shockwaves through global markets. These chips are the brains behind smartphones, electric vehicles, military systems, and even space technologies. If Taiwan's independence is recognized and tensions erupt, this vital supply could be instantly jeopardized. The moment a country officially recognizes Taiwan as independent, it challenges Beijing's One China policy, a red line for the Chinese government. Beijing has consistently threatened military and economic retaliation in such cases. A blockade or invasion, or even the threat of one, would paralyze the semiconductor supply chain, causing massive disruptions in global manufacturing, especially in the United States, Japan, South Korea, and Europe. This wouldn't just be a problem for tech giants. Every industry that relies on digital infrastructure, from finance to healthcare to logistics, would feel the pain. Delays in chip production would cause device shortages, price surges, and a global innovation slowdown. The world economy, still recovering from recent crises, could plunge into another round of inflation and instability. What makes the situation even more fragile is geography. Taiwan sits on key shipping routes in the South China Sea, through which over 30% of global trade flows. If these routes are disrupted, not only would semiconductors be delayed, but countless other goods would be affected, turning a political gesture into a full-blown economic crisis. China's retaliation, sanctions, boycotts, and trade disruption. If Taiwan is officially recognized as an independent nation, China will not respond passively. Beijing has made it clear, such a move would be considered a direct challenge to its sovereignty. The most immediate response would likely be economic retaliation, and China has powerful tools at its disposal. We're talking about sanctions, export restrictions, import bans, and aggressive pressure on multinational corporations that operate in or trade with Taiwan. Western countries that recognize Taiwan could see their companies blacklisted from the Chinese market. That includes tech, automotive, luxury, and even food industries. Remember, China is not just a manufacturing giant, it's one of the largest consumer markets on the planet. Losing access to that market could mean billions in losses for corporations like Apple, Nike, BMW, and many others. Investors would panic, stock markets would take a hit, and businesses would be forced to choose between principles and profits. On top of that, China could use rare earth minerals as a weapon. These critical materials are essential for making everything from smartphones to electric vehicles and military hardware. If China cuts off access, as it has threatened to do in the past, global green energy and defense industries could face a dangerous shortage. Prices would spike, and governments would scramble for alternative suppliers, further fueling economic instability. And don't forget China's dominance in global manufacturing. If Beijing imposes export bans or restricts critical raw materials, global supply chains could seize up. Products would be delayed, prices would surge, and inflation would worsen across multiple continents. In short, recognizing Taiwan isn't just a diplomatic risk, it's a direct challenge to the economic engine of the world's second-largest economy. Global realignment, economic blocks, and strategic shifts. The recognition of Taiwanese independence wouldn't just provoke China, it would divide the world. Countries would be forced to take sides in a new geopolitical and economic Cold War. Allies of the United States might rally in support of Taiwan, while others, especially those economically dependent on China, might distance themselves to protect their national interests. This would accelerate the fragmentation of the global economy into two major blocks: pro-West and pro-China. In this scenario, many countries would begin restructuring their economies around new alliances. Trade agreements, military pacts, and investment flows would shift dramatically. The globalization model of the last 3 decades, built on open markets and integrated supply chains, would begin to unravel. In its place, we'd see a rise in friendshoring and economic nationalism, where countries prioritize trade only with trusted allies. Multinational corporations would face intense pressure to relocate production away from China and into countries seen as safer or politically aligned. That transition, however, would come at a cost. Building new factories, training workers, and stabilizing new supply routes takes time and money, which would inevitably translate into higher consumer prices, fewer product choices, and slower tech innovation for everyone. Smaller economies, especially in Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, would be caught in the middle. They'd face tough decisions, side with China and risk Western backlash, or align with the West and lose Chinese investment. The economic polarization caused by Taiwan's recognition could fracture global trade and deepen inequality between the world's power blocks. Financial shockwaves and currency turbulence, recognizing Taiwanese independence, would trigger massive financial shockwaves across global markets. Investors hate uncertainty, and this kind of geopolitical earthquake would spark immediate sell-offs. Capital would flee from East Asia into safe haven assets like gold, US Treasury bonds, and the Swiss franc. Global stock markets, especially tech-heavy indexes, could plummet within hours of the announcement. Multinational corporations exposed to China or Taiwan would take a hard hit. Companies dependent on Taiwanese semiconductors, from automakers to electronics giants, could see their stock prices collapse. Venture capital in high-tech sectors might dry up as fear over supply chain fragility and market access takes hold. Risk appetite would shrink, and the global flow of investment would shift dramatically. We could also see the onset of a currency war. In retaliation, China might begin dumping US Treasury bonds, which would push up American interest rates and destabilize the dollar. At the same time, Beijing could aggressively promote its digital yuan as a replacement for the US dollar in international trade, a direct challenge to American financial dominance. Currency volatility would skyrocket, affecting trade and pricing across the globe. International financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank would likely be forced to intervene in vulnerable economies suffering from capital flight and currency collapse. Central banks worldwide would be under pressure, raise rates to protect their currencies or lower them to cushion recessionary shocks. Either way, the global financial system would be shaken, and everyday people, not just governments and investors, would bear the brunt through inflation, job insecurity, and reduced economic stability. Recognizing Taiwan's independence might seem like a political statement, but it would come with economic consequences on a global scale. From semiconductor shortages and trade wars to collapsing markets and realigned alliances, the ripple effects would touch every corner of the planet. This isn't just about diplomacy. It's about your job, your savings, and the prices you pay every day. In a world this fragile, one decision can tilt the balance. So ask yourself, are we prepared for the cost of principle? If this video opened your eyes, smash the like button to support content that goes beyond the surface. Subscribe now so you never miss a critical geopolitical update, and drop a comment below. What do you think the world should do if Taiwan declares independence? The E. Next global shift could start with a single decision. Stay informed, stay ahead.